I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, May the 13th, 2014. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was sentenced today to 6 years in prison, making him the first Israeli Prime Minister to ever go to jail. Olmert was convicted earlier this year on 2 counts of bribery in what is known as the Holy Land trial. The sentencing, which also included a 1 million shekel fine, was handed down by Tel Aviv District Court Judge David Rosen today, who also delayed the imprisonment of Olmert and the other Holy Land defendants until September the 1st of this year. Olmert said he planned to appeal both the sentencing and his initial conviction to the Supreme Court. Israeli President Shimon Peres said that while for him personally this was a sad day, quote, "This is the legal process which is custom in democratic states." The U.S. State Department announced that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas are set to meet in London tomorrow. The meeting is said to focus on the U.S. relationship with the Palestinians, likely including the issue of monetary aid in the wake of the announced unity government with terror group Hamas. Although the State Department did not rule out that peace talks might be brought up during the meeting as well, State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki said yesterday that while the door remains open to a peace process, the purpose of the meeting is to discuss our ongoing relationship with the Palestinians, adding that Secretary Kerry will reiterate a call he has made to both sides to maintain restraint and refrain from steps that would be unhelpful. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated that Israel would be willing to restart talks with the Palestinians if PA President Abbas were to decide not to implement the unity deal with Hamas. Just before meeting in Japan today with Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida, Netanyahu said, "We hope that this pact is dissolved and we can find a way to return to genuine negotiations with a genuine peace." The Prime Minister said that Hamas is committed to Israel's destruction and that Israel can only negotiate with a government whose constituent parts are also committed to peace. An interim unity Palestinian government may be set up as early as the end of this month, with elections held 6 months after that. The University of New Mexico's Graduate and Professional Student Association overturned a divestment resolution that it had passed last month. The school's student association had passed a resolution on April the 28th calling on the university to divest from companies that do business in the West Bank, an initiative of the school's Students for Justice in Palestine. However, according to the Israel education organization Stand With Us, that vote took place without the knowledge or attendance of any members of the pro-Israel community. And the second vote took place this past Saturday in order to allow for that participation. The vote was 10-4 and 10 against, with the meeting chair forced to break the tie. Stand With Us credited members of the student group Lobos for Israel and the school's Hillel chapter with getting the association to hold the second vote. The call for the school to divest from companies doing business in the West Bank is part of the BDS, or Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, which seeks to delegitimize the State of Israel. And the American Jewish Committee expressed its outrage at what it called strong-arm anti-Israel tactics used during student council elections at the University of California, Los Angeles last week. In the weeks leading up to the elections this past Friday, the AJC said that anti-Israel groups launched a campaign to get UCLA Student Council candidates to sign a pledge rejecting engagement with Jewish organizations that sponsor educational trips to Israel. AJC Executive Director David Harris noted that no other organizations were targeted. He said McCarthyism has returned, only this time it's directed against Israel and takes place in a university setting. Harris said cherished values of open-mindedness and inquiry on campus are being trashed by groups obsessed with a sinister political agenda. And staying with the AJC, the organization opened its 2014 Global Forum yesterday in Washington with a State of the Jewish World address from former Chief Rabbi of Great Britain, Lord Jonathan Sacks, who addressed the BDS movement as one of 3 distinct threats to the Jewish people today. Sachs said BDS efforts had become the new anti-Semitism, targeting the Jewish state rather than the Jewish faith or race. The other two threats, the former chief rabbi said, was the resurgence of anti-Semitism, especially in Europe, and the threat from Iran, which Sachs noted supports terror groups, continues to pursue its nuclear program, and has repeatedly stated its calls to wipe Israel off the map. Sachs also stressed in his speech the importance of Jewish solidarity.
How can we expect the world to love us if we can't bring ourselves to love one another?
And he lauded the AJC's advocacy for the Jewish people as a whole as an example of such solidarity. And special programming begins tonight, Tuesday, May the 13th, here on Shalom TV to mark Israel's Declaration of Independence, which took place on May the 14th, 1948. Special programs run tonight and tomorrow to mark the historic event, including tonight at 9 o'clock on L'Chaim, where Mark Golub is joined by Yossi Ron, who became an orphan on this date 66 years ago when both his parents died in the Arab massacre at Kfar Etzion in the Etzion block. Ron shares his story and his perspective on current issues in Israel, like the peace process, Israeli settlement policy, and Kfar Etzion today. For more special programs, you can go to the website shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, May the 13th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.